Hi, this is Peter Propp. I run the marketing leadership practice for Shore Communications, and welcome to another episode of 10 Minute Strategy. Today we are here with Ted Rubin. He is a social media strategist and brand evangelist. He is a highly followed celebrity on Twitter within the business community. He sits on the advisory board of many companies, including Open Sky, She Speaks, Collective Bias, Social to Be, and Zuberance. And today Ted is here to talk about a topic that he calls return on relationship. So Ted, why don't you take it away? What is return on relationship?
Well, Peter, simply put, return on relationship is the value that accrues an individual or a brand from nurturing a relationship. It's really very simple. A lot of companies, and very importantly, look at ROI, return on investment, which is a very important key factor in any kind of plan or program you're running with a business. But my contention is that by building relationships and by building loyalty and by building that one-to-one feeling that people have with either a brand or an individual, that over time that return on relationship will very directly lead to return on investment.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've thought a lot about this, and I've seen many clients do this in different ways, but let's talk about a Twitter account, say for a soda manufacturer. So they've got a Twitter handle for dietsoda.com, and it's at diet soda. And we know that that's not a person. It's a brand. It's just a Twitter handle that someone is manning. But they're pretty active. They respond. They do a lot of good stuff. How's that feel to you when you think about return on relationship? Are they doing things the right way?
Well, again, you're making a theoretical case, so it's hard to be specific about it.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really important is part of what you said. They're responsive. They hear when they're listening, and more importantly, they're hearing, because there's a big difference between listening and hearing. Mm-hmm. Okay, listening means you're watching, you're seeing what's happened. Hearing means that you're having some sort of reactivity to that, whether it means changing products, solving problems, creating new products, enhancing what you have out there. So any brand that has people that are paying attention and listening, it's very, very important. Everybody wants to be heard. And more importantly, and this is something I speak about very often, in social marketing, in social media, it's all about women, because there is no social media without women. Women communicate that way, men don't. And if you look at the people on Twitter, not only are the majority that are actively using Twitter and Facebook women, but you'll notice that even the minority, the men, who are they communicating with via social media? The majority of them are communicating with women. Now, of course, that goes to a lot of what the women in marketing talk about. Women control in excess of 80% of all purchases in this country. I mean, household purchases is probably closer to 87%. Certain items, it probably obviously goes over 90. But even when we're talking about automobiles, stereo equipment, gardening equipment, the things that you think are about men, not only are the women making the purchases, but the purchases they're not making, they're influencing. And if you think about it, I get a lot of pushback from a lot of dads online now, and there's a big group of dad bloggers who are feeling, in my opinion, very jealous that the moms are getting all the attention. And I try to explain to them that it's about marketing low-hanging fruit. I mean, if you have a marketing budget, and you know that if you speak to women, you're speaking to the vast majority of the community making buying decisions, then why wouldn't you spend most of your money there? But even to take it even further, the point that dads are making, which is a valid point, men are doing more at home these days. There are more stay-at-home dads, and even the dads that aren't staying at home, they're more involved there. But the bottom line is still, today, in this day and age, women are still controlling that pocketbook. And I'll have these guys that say to me, come on, electronics, cars, I pick them. I'll go, really? Okay, you do the research. You make a recommendation, but who gives you permission to buy it? And guys don't like to hear that, but the truth of the matter is they got to go to their wife to get permission. It's just the way it is. So, it's really important. Women want to be heard. I mean, let's face it. They're not hearing from their husbands or their boyfriends. We're not listening to them when we go home. We come home, my wife wants to tell us, we go, honey, I don't want to go back over the day. I don't want to hear this stuff. I've been working real hard. So the vast majority of them are reaching out in a huge way today with social media. And they want brands to hear them. So simply replying, thanking for a tweet, thanking for information, communicating, have a conversation. No matter whether it's an individual or they know that, I mean, some brands do have an individual who is the voice of the brand.
Right.
Others, there is a slew of people, and some of the brands, the way they've resolved that is they put their initials at the end of the tweets. So you know whether you're speaking with Lori or you're speaking with Heather, or, again,
Ah.
there is no set format. There are no
Right.
firm rules. Different companies do this in different ways. But, I'll give you a great example. A vast difference. And again, is it okay if I go on? Because I know that there's a lot, I'm going pretty far with this question.
Well, you are. Let me just ask you one thing. Um,
Okay.
uh, One thing that I tell people is it is okay to have staff tweeting on behalf of a brand or even on behalf of an executive. The only critical thing is to establish a very clear way to communicate with the people that run the brand or that executive themselves when stuff happens. And so it is totally fine to be active on Twitter and be managing things, behind the scenes a little bit, as long as when stuff goes bad, you're really prepared to fundamentally respond in an appropriate way. Do you agree
Well,
with that?
I'll wholeheartedly agree with part of it. I'm going to have to disagree with another part of it.
Okay.
Let's start with what I disagree with. I don't think it's okay for anybody to tweet on the behalf of an individual, except when it comes to celebrities. Because there's no celebrities that are going to be able to keep up with the millions of fans they have. And very often they make it clear that someone's ghost tweeting for them or someone's communicating for them.
Right.
And that's a whole different world, and I'm not really prepared to rule on it as far as what's best and what's not. But when it comes to the corporate world, if you're the CMO, you better be the CMO. Okay?
Right.
You don't want to be communicating with I don't care if it's a executive VP of marketing or if it's an intern. If it says it's Barry Judge from Best Buy, then it's Barry Judge from Best Buy. And that's what guys like Barry and Jeffrey Hazlett, that's what they do. That's great. It's what I think that I do that's really good. In that people know they're tweeting with me. They're never, ever, nobody tweets from my handle except from me.
Right.
So I think that's really important. Now, on the other side, absolutely fine for people to tweet for a brand, because who is a brand? I mean, Tony the Tiger doesn't exist, so he's certainly not going to be tweeting.
Right.
Although I think they'd be smart to have Tony the Tiger as a Twitter handle. That goes more into the whole marketing brand, brand management aspect of things. But I also think it's okay that people don't necessarily initial their tweets. I mean, that doesn't have to be the strategy of the brand. The brand can have a unified voice. They can make sure that the people tweeting for the brand understand that voice, and then they can respond that way. But what's most important is that there's somebody there communicating. But the side you said about escalation, that's incredibly important.
Right.
So if you're tweeting, and first of all, I tell companies all the time, don't ever use the word social media expert or guru and intern in the same conversation, in the same sentence.
Right.
Okay? Because I don't care. I mean, I've been at events where I've heard this happen, and I've taken, I've had a problem with it, and the interns have jumped in saying, "Hey, I'm not just a normal intern. I worked at P&G for 10 years, and now I'm getting my MBA, so I'm an intern. I'm tweeting." Well, that doesn't matter. The definition of an intern is part-time, unpaid. Right. Therefore, I don't want that person speaking for my brand. But that person can certainly be someone who's tweeting for the brand, just not making the strategy. Right. They need to be clear on what the brand strategy is. Someone has to be overseeing what they're doing and making sure that they're watching it, that they're seeing the tweet stream, that they're seeing what's coming through, so they can put a stop to something that's inappropriate, or not even necessarily inappropriate, but off-brand if it needs to be. And then there needs to be, as you so importantly pointed out, there needs to be an escalation policy that if someone complains. Right. Now, I'm going to give you a great example, okay, a real-world example. Virgin America. Unbelievable brand. Portugal doing amazing work building what they're doing. But they are building their brand through marketing and advertising. They're getting a lot of kudos for their social media, and I agree. Their campaign and initiative-based social media rocks. I mean, Porta is on the edge of everything. She's partnering with the latest companies. They're doing great campaigns and initiatives and having a lot of fun and making people really love the brand. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of Virgin, and there's a reason for it. But what they're not doing well is they're not communicating with their following very well. They're not hearing. If you put out a tweet, it's rare that they respond to it in any short period of time. There's a lot of miscommunication. They don't have an escalation policy like you talk about, or if they do, it's not well managed. Right. So they're doing a great job on the advertising agency side or the marketing division side of social. Fabulous. Probably nobody better than what they're doing. But now you take a company like JetBlue. JetBlue, I wouldn't say is doing a fabulous initiative campaign-based job, but they are interacting with their consumer unbelievably. You tweet about JetBlue, you hear from JetBlue. I don't care how many flights there are a day, what's going on. And their escalation policy is top-notch. Because everything gets directed into the director of communications whenever there's something that's important. He knows what's going on. He knows the social footprint of the person he's dealing with. And I have to tell you that he jumps in whenever it's necessary.
Interesting. Hey, Ted, so we've run out of time on the first 10 minutes, like a flash, right? It was just over like nothing. So is it okay if you stick around? We'll do a part 2?
Sure.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm just going to shut this down for 10 Minute Strategy. This is Peter Propp. Thanks, Ted.
Oh.